All right, good evening. Today is our April 19th, 2021 regular city council meeting. I would like to go ahead and call this meeting to order and have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Dennehy.
Here.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Here.
Councilmember Jaquez.
Here.
Councilmember Reed. Absent. Councilmember B. Smith.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
Here.
Mayor Smith.
Here. Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I see that we have some local celebrities in the audience today. And I'm going to go ahead and let Councilmember Smith, if you don't mind, introducing these two guests.
Awesome. So we have with us today Logan Williams and Brooke Watley. They both competed in, I'm going to try not to butcher this,
Come
the
on up
2021.
here, guys.
Come on up to the mic. You can remove your masks so we can hear you. Speak into the mics. Right at the podium. They competed in the 2021 Marshall Brennan Constitutional Literacy Project Moot Court Competition. And you guys can kind of tell us about that.
To begin, the moot court competition.
Speak loud.
It's so far away. To begin, the moot court competition was sponsored by the Marshall Brennan Project, which runs through multiple law schools across the country. Top 10 schools competed and had high school students that they trained, such as Yale. And then, of course, we were sponsored through CU Boulder, who had law students who worked with us individually and as a team and trained us in concepts of First Amendment law, which we applied to moot cases.
Can you explain your cases?
So, the particular case that we received dealt with a fictional high school student named Jordan Washington, who, among other actions, disrupted a classroom at her school to explain a police brutality walkout that she was advertising, spray painted an advertisement on the walls, and did other actions relating to promoting the walkout. We were assigned positions of petitioner and respondent, wherein we respectively had to represent the school and Jordan Washington herself. I took on the role of representing the school. Brooke Watley represented Jordan Washington.
And you, Brooke, received the highest marks. And how was it judged?
There was a number of preliminary rounds in which we were scored on our ability to use concepts of the First Amendment, such as the freedom of speech in certain situations, the ability of schools to limit the speech of students and to decide what is and is not appropriate. And those concepts were applied to how we handled the case and whether or not we were confident in the way we spoke, whether or not we spoke with poise and addressed the issue properly. And once you made it past those preliminary rounds, there was a semifinal round, which was judged by less lay judges and more law professors, actual lawyers, people who had been in the law for a longer time. But finally, we had a school's dean and two judges who had been serving on circuit courts for 15 plus years as the final judges.
Awesome. Can you give us a little bit of insight on why you wanted to compete?
So, for my personal case, I do speech and debate at the high school, particularly because I believe that being well-spoken and being able to both research and reflect on what you think about certain things and being able to express that accurately is very important. So doing things like Marshall Brennan is almost an excuse to develop that ability.
I happen to have an interest in law, and I was considering constitutional or civil law as my career path. So not only am I in the speech and debate club as well, but I found that the Marshall Brennan program was an amazing way for me to try out my career before I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars at law school to continue my education.
And just an FYI for the public that's watching, you guys compete against schools of all sizes nationally. So that's quite a big deal for Canyon City as a whole, for you guys to go and beat these schools in New York and California and these big 5A, 6A schools. So
We were actually one of the first 3 people to compete from Canyon City because before us, nobody from Canyon City had so much as competed at the state level. So we took first and second place at the state level, which was a first for Canyon City beyond just competing. And then we were, of course, the first from Canyon City to compete at nationals, too.
Awesome. I don't know if any other council members have any questions.
Let's go to Councilmember Gonzalez.
Congratulations, you guys. So thank you for coming in and explaining this to us because I've seen it on Facebook, I've seen it in the news, and I didn't understand. So now I understand. Thank you for the breakdown. But I wondered, is there a transcript or some kind of information that we can find out what your verdict was?
While they don't have verdicts published, we do actually have the final round arguments. I have a video that I can email to anybody who wants it, or if there's some way that you want that published, I can. It's quite lengthy, as I think it's 4 hours in length. This includes the entire day of the final rounds. However, I do have timestamps if you want specific arguments.
I would love to.
And
to see
I
how it
also
plays
believe
out.
I could acquire the links to the state level competition so that you can
Okay.
have rounds from Brooke and myself from that state appearance.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Councilmember Jaquez.
You know, we've always spoken, each and every one of us on council, that the youth of today is the future of tomorrow. And you two young people represent that in the highest esteem for what you've done and what you're looking at doing in the future. Just keep your hopes of where you have them now and make them even higher, because the higher you make them, the more it's going to make you a better person. And that we appreciate everything you've done. In a sense, it's like you guys helped put Canyon City on the map of things that are important to us as members of the council, members of the city. It's young folks like you that take the challenge to compete in something like this and be successful. Good luck to each one of you in your future endeavors.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Does our attorney want to say anything to our future ambitious folks?
If it wasn't for that pesky bar exam, I'd want to hire them both.
Just give them a couple years.
Exactly.
I'm sure she's looking for an internship here sooner than later.
I am, actually.
I just wanted to close with the fact that you guys must have amazing parents.
Phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
Just for the record, that
yeah.
would be Councilmember Smith.
For those that don't know, Brooke is my daughter. And she also has some news to share from this last weekend. Do you want to share what happened last weekend?
This weekend?
Blossom?
Sure. I actually just placed second attendant in the Blossom Festival, so I will be participating in the parade and the court events.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for coming.
Well
Thank you for having us.
And
Thank you.
yes, here, at some point, this gavel will be one of yours, I'm sure. So please consider running for elected office someday. Very proud to have you in our community and putting us on the map and representing us so well today and in the future. Thank you for inviting them to come in, Councilmember Smith. Next, we will invite Rex Brady to come up and give us a report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. Good evening. I want to take this opportunity to recognize a volunteer at Lakeside Cemetery. She's worked tirelessly at the cemetery for several years. She's done everything from pulling weeds, believe it or not, because we can't find anybody to do that, but she's perfectly willing to do that. And we appreciate that so much, to painting veterans markers for the veterans in Lakeside Cemetery, to completing major projects, which we'll talk about soon. But Louise Barton is more than a volunteer. She's a historian, she's a researcher, and she's kind of a bit of a detective, a sleuth. Evidenced by, and this is just volume 1, but this is, obviously she has a soft spot in her heart for the veterans that are buried in Lakeside Cemetery. She has done an incredible amount of research documenting each and almost every one of the veterans that are laid to rest in Lakeside Cemetery. Clear down to, the war that they served in. She has obviously a great deal of respect, like we all do, for the members of our armed service. And she has another soft spot, and that's for children. And recently, it was back in 2019, I believe, and it was Mother's Day of 2019, she completed a very special project. It was called is it the Forgotten Angels or the Fallen Angels? Okay, I always want to say Forgotten Angels. But there was actually how this started was an individual here in town came to her because they knew that she was a researcher, and they wanted to find their missing niece, I believe it was? Sister? Was it a sister? Okay. Which there was no indication of where that she might be buried. So if it pleases the council, I'd like to have Luis come up and just tell us about that project, how it started and how it evolved and what it eventually became, because it's very impressive. So after that, Luis, the mayor has a token of our appreciation for what you've done in the cemetery. And if you'd tell us that story, I'd greatly appreciate it.
When I was doing the research for the local historic landmark, I found a section on the map that hasn't been on the map since the 40s. So I thought that was amazing. And I took a picture of it and took it and gave it to Deborah. She put it on the wall with the map. I went back to get some more information and found a different map, 41 or 42, that had the list of names on that section. I couldn't find any obituaries, so Ron Taylor, who is a volunteer at the History Center, got me 16 of the 25 names. The oldest one was 8 years old. I was heartbroken, excuse me. Here's all these children and nobody to remember them. One of the babies that was in this group was the one that this family had been looking for. So on Mother's Day, we had a ribbon cutting and dedication. And we started out with I didn't put these in order, didn't I? Sorry, I did have these in order. This is what it looked like when we started. Nothing but weeds, grass. The orange markers are approximately where these babies were buried. And so I don't take no for an answer. I started knocking on doors, making phone calls, and saying, I need your help. The CCIF's gentleman made these beautiful little crosses for the babies. And this is what they look like before we had them engraved. They are engraved at the present time. A wonderful lady paid for them to be engraved. I have so much, it's here that I can't put into words. They are called the Fallen Angels, and there is a complete three-ring binder at the History Center from start to finish on everything that we did. My husband did most of the hard work because I can't do it anymore. But so this is a donation list of everything that was donated to us for the babies. I call them my babies because I think they're mine. I had so honored that Rex is doing this. I didn't do this for the honors. I did this for the babies and the families. When we had the ceremony on Mother's Day, the two ladies that I had met in 2018, they were there at this ceremony. 4 of the babies were their siblings. And the one that they had asked me about was the one that made the front page of the Pueblo Chieftain. And their name was Mary Margaret Aragon. Sorry, I get emotional. It took about 18 months to get everything done. And when we were leveling the area, we found another little baby. We have no idea who she is or he is. There's no indication, no obituary, no records anywhere. We call her our unknown baby. So we made her, at least, or him, part of, to look like the rest of the babies, minus the headstone or the marker. So, and this is what it looks like today. And these are my babies. I had a lady the other day come up and she says, you know, this is so pretty. It's so well taken care of. And I said, and it will be as long as I can do it. They will be taken care of. I have volunteers that have young kids that we're working with now to start appreciating and helping stuff like this. Is that good?
So Louise,
So I'll let you look at
we
these.
have for you
Oh my.
this plaque. It says, presented to Louise Barton in recognition of your outstanding volunteer contributions in Lakeside Cemetery. And I would like to present this to you, and we will, if City Council don't mind, we'll come up and take a picture with Louise. And then after a picture with Louise, I'd like to invite Logan and Brooke to also come and have a picture with City Council too.
My.
And just to add a little bit to that, she made it sound pretty simple, what she did, but it took 18 months of research. She started out looking for one child and ended up finding 26. So that was incredible. Oh, that's, you haven't seen anything. She's broken. Oh, breaking. Where? She's got a raise and identified. All the way up to I think that's a little bit. We have a separate Greenwood Cemetery. But, yeah, if you want to look at those on the vids, I was just studying them. So, just see it down. Yeah.
Actually, we'll have you come in. Oh, okay. Well, I should probably make space for Brooke. She won the thing, so she should.
You guys are pretty darn amazing.
What is he here right now?
Yes, I'm a senior in high school.
Where are you headed to?
My plan is to go to PCC to get my Bachelor's of Arts, and my end goal is to be a history teacher, and I'm still exploring four-year plans, but I was actually looking at college out of the country.
guys for coming. You don't have to stay, but you're welcome to.
Thank you for having us. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Hey, congrats.
Congratulations.
That means you're good. Lisa, how have you been? Good, good to see you.
Okay, let's move on to our administrator's report, please.
Actually, I believe we need to do the consent agenda.
Yeah, let's do that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. Item 8A is to approve the minutes for the regular city council meeting on April 5th, the special city council meeting with the Planning Commission on March 31st and April 7th, and the general government meeting on April 7th. The 8B authorizes the mayor to sign a MOU for the Bureau of Land Management owned archaeological and paleontological collections, and 8C is to receive and file a list of bills.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
I did have a couple of questions on the MOU with the BLM about the archaeology and paleontology. In there, it says that we're required to maintain continued access to paleontological or archaeological expertise necessary to curate the collection. Does that mean that we have to have someone on call, or do we don't have someone that fits that bill, do we, Brian?
We had a BLM funded position or jointly funded position, and I would have to go back and check and see where we are on the status of that. But yeah,
I was just worried that it might be committing us to have either a consultant on call. It doesn't say they have to work for us or be there at any particular time, but just that they have to be available.
Right.
And so I was concerned about that. And then the other thing that I was concerned about is that it commits us to maintaining a software called Museum Collections Management System. Do you know, do we currently have that software system at the History Center?
I don't know offhand. I'd have to check on that.
Okay. That might be another added expense that we're looking at with this, but other than those couple of concerns, this looks like a pretty good deal and perhaps quite a feather in our cap to be able to maintain this certification from BLM.
Yeah, and we have been managing this collection for about 5 years. I don't know if the software if that's a new addition or if that's something that we've already been using.
So we've been doing it for 5 years,
Yes.
and they've been happy with how we've been doing it. And
Yes, they have. And it was 2 separate agreements previously, and this one agreement will consolidate those 2 agreements moving forward.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from council? I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, please.
Madam Mayor,
Councilmember Gonzalez.
make a motion that we approve the agenda and consent agenda for April 19th, 2021.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call the vote.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Aye.
Councilmember Jaquez?
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Thank you, council. And now we will move on to the administrator's report, please.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor. For the administrator's report, I'm not going to go into all the detail of the written reports, but a couple of highlights. K9 Duke is going to be retiring, and he will be leading off the Blossom Festival parade. So very excited about that, and we'll send K9 Duke off in good fashion. We have, and it's not in the written report here, we have received several letters of interest for the Energy Committee. The breakdown of that, we have 2 that designated that they were part of Canyon City Energy Future. We have 7 citizens request to be part of the committee. Right now, we do not have anybody that is identified as being a business. So I guess, number one, I'm looking for council's guidance on, do you want us to keep this back out there and for an extended period of time to try and garner some business interest, or would you like us to go ahead and start scheduling the interviews for the Energy Committee?
Councilmember Gonzalez.
So it's a team of how many? The committee of how many? 13?
It's a committee of 9 that
9.
is to make up 2 from council, 1 county commissioner, and the rest would be citizens. 2 from Canyon City's Energy Future, and I believe up to 2 in the business community.
How interesting that we got 7. Okay. How long did we decide to leave it open?
This was open for a month.
And how long has it been?
It closed on Thursday.
Oh.
Well, I'd be interested to hear what the council members' opinions are. Councilmember Dennehy?
Yeah, I think we might as well just let's get going on it. And, you know, it was out there for a month, no businesses came on, let's move on with it. And, you know, down the road, if any businesses show any interest or they come in, you know, if there's a spot open, we can get them on, but let's get this going. And, because the only reason, I mean, we could delay it, and we know what, you know, we know what the hassle of that's gonna come down to. And, you know, and if it's been out for a month, you know, I would, as a business owner, you know, a lot of people don't have that time, and, you know, I think I can say that, like, with, you know, they just don't have the time.
That's very true.
And perhaps not a compelling interest either, which might speak to it. Councilmember Smith.
You definitely took the words right out of my mouth. It sounds like the people that applied want to be on the committee, and let's get going, just like Tim said. I think that if we delay it, it's only going to cause more strife, especially with other groups that want to see us get started on this project.
I believe, and Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick, have your affirmation, but I don't believe any commissioners are interested in participating.
They, perhaps not in a formal sense, but they may stop in, there may be one that stops in from time to time to see what's going on.
Okay. So if we have 2 from Energy Futures and we had designated 2 for citizens, do we want to expand that to 4 citizens so we have a larger group, advisory group?
Wondered, is there a way that we could maybe reword it to say we would prefer to have business owners, but this is what the breakdown would look like? So we're not designating.
You can certainly always revise the resolution, so since it was just adopted by resolution, that's easy to do, to change the composition.
So maybe when we do our interviews, it might be a time also to revise the resolution. So we can make, I think a committee of 4 is not sufficient. I'd like to see at least 6.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
And for what it's worth, I'd always recommend an odd number, just in
Oh.
case.
Right.
5.
So,
I volunteer to be the odd member.
well, we do
doesn't-
have 2 council members.
fits
as
you well, John.
So you already are that. That would put it, so maybe we'll do 3 citizens. What do you think? That would still put us at 7 by the time we have 2 council members. And then
Sure.
Ryan will be sitting on the committee as well. And I think on the original one, we said 2 to 3 business owners and 2 to 3 citizens,
right.
because we gave ourselves some flexibility.
Okay,
Right.
well then we're set.
Yeah, we'll have to go back and look. I remember we provided flexibility for the businesses. I don't remember if we provided flexibility for the citizens.
Okay.
We did, I'm almost positive, we did one extra either or for that, to see what we got.
There were
Okay.
2 words.
All right, and if there's
So-
0 businesses, there's 0 businesses.
So we'll work on getting something scheduled for the interviews, and we'll, if we need to make a change to the resolution, we'll bring that forward at the same time as the interviews.
Okay, thank you, Ryan Stevens. Do you have anything else for your report?
in your binders, you have the city council calendar. We have some upcoming meetings with the joint planning commission meetings regarding the comprehensive plan and the upcoming zoning changes. I just want to call out, there is a meeting on the calendar that says May 26th. That is actually going to be moved to May 24th. Planning Commission has a rather lengthy meeting that night. So your updated calendars will reflect that, but I just want to call that out so you can plan accordingly.
Any questions for Ryan Stevens? If that is a case, then we will move on to item number 2A, and that's introduction and adoption by title only of Resolution 8, Series of 2021, entitled A Resolution of the City Council of Canyon City, Colorado, approving the purchase and sale agreement with Lawrence Tilley for the property located at 316 Macon Avenue, Canyon City, Colorado.
Yeah, I can go ahead and start this, and we'll turn it over to Rick. This is for the parking lot behind New Method Laundry. Originally, we had brought forward a contract that contemplated purchasing both properties at the same time, or giving us the option to purchase both properties at the same time. That was not, that resolution was tabled, but we have, we still have interest in purchasing this parking lot, and we're still going through that process, and I think there's been some recent developments, and I'll turn it over to Rick to talk about those developments.
Yeah, a week ago, there was a competing offer put on the property, and the agent contacted us to give us an opportunity to try again, and we put together a revised purchase agreement, lickety-split. It happened in a matter of hours, and got it to you guys as quickly as we could. What's been happening with the properties is it's really the challenge, since we combined the two in one purchase agreement, they were both tied to the building. And the challenges we're having with the building, mainly the machinery inside and the presence of possibly lead-based paint and asbestos, and conversations with the EPA saying you don't want to touch the machinery or anything right now until they're done, kind of tied our hands, really. And the owner himself, he's dealing with this situation. By all accounts, it looks like for the last 20 years or so, at least, he's been running it correctly. The EPA has not had any issues with him. So he's very, very much struggling with the fact that he's got a building that's potentially worth nothing right now, after putting all of his heart and soul into operating a business. So and one idea was that we want to really keep this process moving. We want the property, one. We want to respect the owner, number two. We want to go through the due diligence of making sure the machinery is taken, and we figure out how we're going to handle all that. So that the best solution really was to put an offer on, separate out the parking lot, and put the offer back out there on the parking lot, which has been accepted now. So that's the idea. The building is still moving forward. We're going to be getting a structural engineer in there pretty soon to take a look at the structure in terms of demolition. But it's just a slow process right now. Phase 2 has not begun yet. They do have EPA was supposed to receive a drill map, basically, last week. I haven't received that yet, so it's getting close, but it's going to be a little while. They did advise me not purchase the property until Phase 2 is done on the parking lot as well. So this purchase agreement is still contingent on EPA Phase 2 results.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
So I'm trying to understand, when you say the parking lot, you're talking the Macon property,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
Not the building.
Correct.
And we're just looking at purchasing that piece of property right now, or both?
Eventually, both of them, but this purchase agreement would be just for that property. We separated that out because there's a competing offer on just that property.
So somebody else has put an offer in on the
So-
parking lot?
Somebody else wants that property.
Well, because at the bottom of the memo page, it says, staff is requesting approval of Resolution 8 authorizing property.
Oh, that is a
purchase.
mistake.
So I'm
That's
confused.
that's an error on my part,
Okay.
yeah.
So can I ask what the purchase price is?
$47,000,
Okay,
And you say
which is
there's-
what it was before.
but
There's-
oh,
Go ahead.
sorry, but there's no offer on the building, it was just on counter offer from someone else on,
There was another offer on, not on the building, correct. There was
Just
no
on-
offer on the building.
Okay, all right.
There's been a number of people that looked at the building, but none of them have been able to make it work in any way.
okay,
The purchase agreement says 43,000 for the building. Or
43,000?
not for the building, for the parking lot.
Oh, that was my mistake, sorry.
And you say the seller has already signed the agreement to
Yes.
accept this offer?
Yep, we got it today.
Oh, okay. Councilmember Hawkes.
So we're looking at just the parking lot behind the building, behind the laundromat,
Right now, yes.
okay?
Yep.
And you know, my biggest concern with that is I just soon go out on the limb for both or just leave alone, because I can't see, if we don't get the building on Main Street, the benefit, in my opinion, the benefit of the parking lot in the back with regards to what we are trying to accomplish with parking space available for downtown. Because the people are going to have to go in and out of their way to get into that parking lot in order to do what they're going to do. And to me, that doesn't seem very feasible, because the other question I have is this, okay? And this one is to the administrator. Do we still have the agreement for the parking space behind the old Fremont Bank?
We do. We're leasing the space from the TZAC company.
And the reason I bring this up is because we've got that there. We're actually paying rent, right?
A nominal amount, but yes.
Okay, all right. We're actually paying rent there. And that's a piece of property that we're paying rent on for the purpose of parking that we aren't even utilizing. You know, so to me, it's kind of like wasted money. The potential behind that was good, and probably still is good, but we're wasting money right now, and so I'm looking at it the same way if we look at just the parking lot behind the laundromat, the dry cleaning. It's going to be another spot, basically for, even though the price isn't that high, but it's still going to be a potential for wasted money once again. So I don't know if there's anything we could do. Like I said, I wish there was some way we could look at this to combine both of them, because that makes more sense once you get rid of the dry cleaning business. You've got the parking lot behind. Now you have created something that would be beneficial to the downtown area for future growth in that. I don't see it with just purchasing the building behind. Okay, that's my opinion.
And Councilman Hawkes, just to answer, some of that, we do still intend on purchasing the building. I don't know that there's going to be a private developer that comes in and looks at the building just because of all the issues that are with that.
And I understand that,
Yeah,
I
sure.
understand that, but the thing about it is I'm looking at it this way. Do we take another gamble on a piece of property and it doesn't work out for us to get the front part, and now we got the back part, which to me is not going to be that beneficial for the purpose that we're looking at.
Yeah.
So, that's why I'm looking at
Well,
it that way.
this is based, contingent on Phase 2. So it's not a commitment to buy it today, it's just to hold it so we have the opportunity to buy it, and we can still back out if it doesn't work out.
Yeah. And my closing comment on that would be, even if we do acquire that property, it's still an asset that we own, and we could sell it at a later time. Whereas, the situation with the parking lot by Fremont Bank, that's a rent situation that, once you spend that money's gone.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
I should have asked this earlier, I meant to. How many parking spots do we anticipate could be put in there? Just that one spot on Macon?
We had maps last time.
Yeah,
They're
we
not in
did.
there this time.
Yeah, we had some diagrams last
We
time.
did, yeah.
I think we were probably in the 12 to 15 spaces for that particular lot. We had several different options and configurations. It kind of depends on what happens, how we end up utilizing the
Right.
building lot.
Okay.
I think I think there were like 11 or 12 in that one, and then there was a flow-through plan to go, but still depends on, the layout depended on new method.
Councilmember Dennehy.
Part of that is, I was going to go back to say this was not just to clear what you said, it's based on, the results for the EPA on buying this lot. I understand all that. What is the number of spaces that we leased there behind TZACs in that area? And is that something that we should look at, because that's a pretty big lot too?
It's
Is that
like 25. I can answer that because I park there every day.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
So it's a good solid, like 20-ish spaces, and it really is important because of Main Street parking. That seems to be where most of the people that work on Main park, so that we can allow the customers to utilize the Main Street parking.
No, and I agree with that 100%, because I know my wife parks on the south side of the Main Street buildings as well. But, I'm just saying, is that a lot that we could, potentially look down the road of either obtaining or improving, or?
So, yeah, I think that depends on the property owner and whether or not they would be willing to let go of that property in the long term. When we came up with the lease agreement, at that point, they weren't interested in selling. Maybe something that we revisit after they complete their construction.
We did try to purchase it from the new
Well,
owners, and right
and-
at that moment they weren't, but maybe in the future.
Yeah, we've taken many runs at that parking lot.
And I'm just going to throw this out. I do think that the way you have this, Rick, and that as far as basing it upon the other, right now, there's still no, the city's not committed to anything yet, so.
And they had, like I said, the EPA advised us to just be careful, go through the process. I mean, the phase one didn't really show much of anything in that parking lot, but there was very common that dry cleaners dumped chemicals. And you never know until phase two happens, so, and I believe they're gonna start at the river when they start phase two and work their way up to the building, so it'll be a little while.
Goodness. That's EPA money or city money doing that?
EPA money.
Oh, that's good.
It's a targeted brownfield.
Councilmember
Assessment.
Smith.
So Mayor Smith and Administrator Stevens answered most of this. This being contingent on the phase two, but I mean, the whole goal of this is to eventually acquire some Main Street parking. God's not making any more property downtown, so we've got to use what we have, and 12 or 13 spaces is better than zero, in my opinion.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to say that this is a contingent offer. We're not purchasing the property. We're making an offer that's contingent upon future knowledge that will be developed. And we have some peace of mind knowing that there is already another offer on the property. Even if, the building, we're not able to acquire that particular property, and for some reason, this is not suitable for parking, although it should be, we can always sell it. Since there's already an offer on it, we would have some belief that we would be able to sell it in the future if needed.
And there is a lot of need to have, and this is a conversation all the time, business owners and employees need to have a place to park. And business owners in particular, when they park out front, everybody gets mad because they're parking out front, they're using their space. So if we can offer more opportunities on the back streets, then great. I totally understand where you're coming from, Councilman Hawkes, I really do. It just fits better when the building is with it. In this case, it just does.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Sorry. I never heard a follow-up on the contents of the building. We had discussed earlier about that being part of the contingency, the boiler, some of the equipment on the inside. What was the outcome of that?
We've had a couple of, well, there's been 3 contractors to look at the building to consider taking the machinery out. One we talked to is a professional rigger that moves machinery. That's what they do for a living. And they're dumbfounded when they look at this place because of the size of the machinery that's in there. This machinery is it's massive. So in order to get it out, you have to take walls down or cut the machinery apart and haul it out bit by bit by bit. No matter what you do, it's going to be a spectacle. But the reality of it is, though, now that the EPA is involved and they're doing phase 2, we can't touch anything right now. We can't begin to remove the machinery because of lead and asbestos possibilities. And there's most likely a lot of lead. All the walls are painted and they're all peeling. So that's probably lead-based paint. So the reality is we just can't do anything. We're gonna have to wait until then. But the machinery, it's still being assessed whether it would be best to take it down with demolition or take it out before. But all 3 of the contractors gave a price on cutting it apart and taking it out piece by piece by piece. But none of them are doing it just for the cost of the scrap or the value of the scrap. They're charging $15,000 to $30,000. Yeah.
Councilmember Jaquez.
The thing I'm looking at is we've tried a lot of stuff and everything, and we've spent a lot of money, and we're talking about parking spaces. And I'll admit, the lease agreement we had with the bank at that time probably was the best one for downtown parking, okay, for people. But then all the other stuff came with their construction and everything else. But I can look back when we was looking at Constantino's for parking, okay? And that flew by the wayside. We was even looking at using it for parking, getting a shuttle to pick up people, bring them downtown and everything, and that fell apart. Although we're looking at other projects for it, for the property. The clock tower area, when it first came about, that was for parking, okay? And that fell apart. We're looking at other things to put there. But we've looked at so many things for parking that haven't succeeded one bit. But we have spent a lot of money. Grant you, we own the land for Constantino's. There ain't nobody beating down the doors to buy it and put something there. We own the land by the clock tower. And there's plans for something there, but there isn't anybody beating the doors to say, I'm going to develop what you want to look at. And now if we get this piece of land behind the cleaners and the front part never works, yeah, we got a piece of land. But the location and everything for it, I don't think we'll have anybody beating on the doors to say, I want to buy it from you. I'm just looking at what we do. Let's try to use some good common sense. And like I say, I'd rather, and I'll say it every time, I'd rather delay this or somehow have it hooked into the purchase of both properties, either both or none. That makes more sense to me than just going with the back end. That will accomplish more for the downtown area if we can get it. But now we're looking at a lot of costs with regards to the front part. So that's how I'm just looking at the money we have spent so far, and we have not generated anything for all that money yet.
Councilmember Smith.
Am I wrong? It is contingent on the sale of both properties, correct?
No, just the environmental.
It's contingent on environmental. So originally.
On the EPA study?
On the EPA study, yes. So originally, the original resolution that we brought was for both properties, but even in that agreement, the sale, we could decide to move forward with one or the other. And
so if the
split them.
EPA, if the phase 2 doesn't come back the way we want it to. Because basically, we're looking at, the only thing that can go here is a parking lot due to possible contamination.
Depending on if there's contamination, yes. So what we're waiting on is a phase 2 for the parking lot, and if there is remediation, I believe we have it in the contract still that we can adjust the price down, to account for the cost of remediation.
I just, with the issues with this building, I just do not see any private developer coming in here and doing anything with this building at the costs that are going to accrue. And this building's already sliding into the one next to it, so nothing is gonna happen to it but another blighted, empty building that's falling into the one next to it. I don't know what else you do with it besides make it a parking lot.
It's an expensive problem. It really is. It can be a very expensive problem. The building is it's just not good. We'll put it that way.
And dry cleaners in general are notorious, especially in, smaller towns, smaller communities, of having, this type of problem. What's the reuse for it afterwards, and, what do you do with the cleanup and all of those things? But, parking lot for both the building and potentially, even the back lot if there's contamination there, makes a whole lot of sense, because you would be capping you'd be capping any contamination in that particular site.
It's one of those things, it's like a kick the can down the road kind of thing. If we don't deal with it now, we're gonna have to deal with it at some point, and the citizens and the taxpayers are gonna expect us to deal with it.
Brandon, I have a question for you. How many business owners and employees and downtown residents do you think use the TZAC's parking lot that we lease?
So that parking lot is contingent on parking passes. So they're free parking passes, but you do have to get them from code enforcement. I know that my entire staff of 6 park back there, as well as the Beauty Loft staff, as well as Tailored West staff, and a couple of the residents that live in the apartments above. So
Okay.
it's quite, and I know even the people at the mortgage company park right there. So there's a lot of employees that of Main Street, of Fifth Street businesses that park back there, as well as
Classic
who else
Furniture.
uses it? Classic Furniture and Classic Movers utilize that parking lot as
Okay,
well.
so it's used quite a bit. And we made that agreement in response to them coming to the city saying, we have a serious problem that we need solutions for, and it appears that that is working. I would like just to say, just for record, that perhaps with different interpretations of the purchase of the Constituno property, that was to remediate a horrible blight in the entrance of our community. It was never intended to be a permanent parking solution. It was just a temporary idea until we put it out to RFP. No one's knocking at our door for it because we still have yet to put it out to RFP. That should be coming up soon, right?
Yeah, we should be, that should be wrapped up fairly soon, and we'll be working on that RFP to go out.
Right. And the purchase of the clock tower, although it is currently a parking lot, it was in response to the master plan for Centennial Park, which was a connection between Centennial to Veterans to downtown. And so its intention as a plaza is what it was originally for and was what it will consistently be. And so it wasn't bought as an intention for a parking lot either. This still is, parking is one of the top 3 needs of our downtown businesses. It's something that we need to have some foresight into the future to meet that need while we have the opportunity. And it's also over $60,000 less than what we paid for the clock tower property as well. So I think the price is really good. Councilmember Dennehy, I see you're on here.
Yes. Brandon, I agree with you, and we do need parking down there. But, the only thing I want to watch though is this price, because, and we'll see, and I know that you've got, but that remediation on getting all that out, but, I think it's a good plan. I really do. I think we need something, especially on that end of town. There is no parking up that end, other on the streets, other than where we're just talking about right now. But, I also really want to watch that, what the cleanup and all that is gonna be, because then we're gonna look at, hey, this is what we're paying per space. But overall, I think this is a fantastic project.
And I think we owe some credit to Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick for going back to explore a little bit more about the boiler and the equipment inside the building. We're really glad that, sounds like that was a really wise move, so thank you for that recommendation. And hopefully there'll be some EPA resources that can help us through this. And also the price is contingent on how much it would cost to get the boiler taken care of.
We do have.
Or it could be, yeah.
Hope, anyway, that the multipurpose grant that we applied for last fall will be awarded next month. The notifications come out next month, and we haven't been told we're going to be awarded anything, but it sounds pretty promising right now. But, you know, realistically, with dry cleaning cleanup, that grant may just not even cover it. You know, they can be very, very expensive. So coming up with the funds to clean that up will be another challenge entirely, most likely.
This is another reason why sometimes it takes the public to take care of a public nuisance, because a private developer just, there's zero incentive for them to take that on.
And like I said, several have looked at it, and nobody's willing to even, they look, they get amazed, and they leave.
I think we've talked quite a bit about this resolution 2A. I would be interested in a motion. Councilmember Smith?
Madam Mayor and Council, I move to approve Resolution 8, Series of 2021.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? I'll call a vote, please.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Aye.
Councilmember Jaquez?
Nay.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
The motion carries. Thank you, council. We'll now move on to item number 2B. This is the second reading and adoption by title only of Ordinance 11, Series of 2021, entitled An Ordinance of the City of Canyon City amending the Canyon City Municipal Code by the addition of a new chapter 1.14 within Title I regarding municipal campaign finance complaints.
This is a second reading. We have not received any citizen comments on it. I don't know if the city attorney has any comments.
Just that the city is now in the position of having to adopt this ordinance because of the position the Secretary of State's office has taken.
Very well. Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor?
Councilmember Dennehy.
Madam Mayor, I would like to make a motion to pass Ordinance 11, Series 2021, on its second reading.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Aye.
Councilmember Jaquez?
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Thank you, council. The motion has passed on the second reading. We are now in compliance with state law. So thank you, Corey, as well. And this meeting is adjourned.